Welcome back everyone for a money-making movie, Karate Kid Legends Watch Party! The first trailer for the upcoming Karate Kid movie has dropped. It has the anti-corporatist liberals everywhere going, yeah, I'll see that, how do I buy a ticket? There's a lot to break down about the film itself, how it tries to create a multiverse and all the other shit thrown in. But we should start with one thing I sort of like about it, or at least am amused by. The movie completely undermines and downplays the 2010 Karate Kid, and specifically Dre Parker. We see Mr. Han telling Daniel, Lee, his current student, is the most important one he's ever had. He's special to him. Sorry, Dre, despite the fact that you were apparently Mr. Han's first student, you aren't all that important. This seems to be an attempt to get away from Will Smith's antics and over-establish the importance of the current main character. I personally don't have anything against Jaden Smith, but he is getting a little bit of the shaft here. Anyway, since the writers can write anything they want, apparently Mr. Han is now a major karate or kung fu instructor. He's got whole classes of kids taking off and putting on their jacket. How brilliant. I assume Lee's already been learning from him and maybe from China. That makes him a bit stronger already? I don't know. The plot synopsis says he wants to help a new friend. It really doesn't make much sense. Either way, he's in New York with Mr. Han, and that is where he runs into trouble. A Michael Jackson impersonator asks him for a little bit of extra food on the subway, and it leads to all sorts of problems. Now, I was in New York a few months ago with no problem on the trains, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be careful. Since Lee already knows how to fight, I think he's not the one who's getting bullied, but then we don't really see any other characters. Maybe he's trying to stand up for someone else, I don't know. No one really knows because the trailer didn't tell us. There's very little of the plot actually given here, which is a sign the movie is weak. Everything seems to be massively contrived to get Mr. Han and Daniel together and play into the nostalgia. That is to say, the story is designed as a pathway to nostalgia, not that they were writing this great story with great characters and found a way to tap the nostalgia into it. They go from China to New York, and then ultimately, Mr. Han takes a cab to Mr. Miyagi's house. What the fuck? The assumed backstory to all of this is Mr. Han knows both Mr. Miyagi and Daniel. How? Who cares? It's nostalgia and it's about the feels. The feels. Don't you feel good? You're a hater if you even ask anything about it. Like, I get the impression Daniel didn't even know he was coming. Like, somehow Mr. Han, who, as you recall, was an apartment maintenance worker in Beijing, not only knew who Mr. Miyagi was, okay fine, but actually had his last home address in the valley. Like, the whole thrust is for us to imagine they were connected years ago in the backstory. Like, maybe Mr. Miyagi crossed paths with Mr. Han sometime, and then let on about Daniel. And then he even has his address and takes a cab there because he knows the house is still there and Daniel's gonna be right there when he shows up. I mean, whatever. You'll also note that in the time between Cobra Kai and this movie, Daniel apparently decided to paint the house and change the color back to the original look, which completely wore down and looks crummy already. Now, the film completely tries to explain the connection with a saying derivative of St. Patrick's example of the shamrock. As you recall, St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, used the shamrock to explain the Catholic doctrine of the Trinity. It's one plant but has three leaves. In the same way, there is one God with three parts: the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So here they say two branches, one tree. Now, the trailer makes a big freaking deal about this. They say two branches, one tree, like they've stumbled upon a major revelation. Hold on tight. That's deep. To be clear, have you ever seen a tree with just two branches? Have you ever seen a tree with only one branch? Like, what the fuck does any of this mean? This is the stupidest metaphor I've ever heard. This is what happens when idiots try to write some deep sounding shit. You'll note, even in the picture they show in the trailer, the tree has many branches. That's because trees have tons of branches. Unless they intend for the other branches to be the sequels to this thing, I would say it's sort of nonsense. St. Patrick used a shamrock, because it had a specific number of leaves and was a visual representation for God. Every shamrock was the same. Likewise, Daniel once offered this metaphor.
It'll be around long after we're gone. The roots are strong, so the tree will survive.
This is because storms can destroy a lot, but a tree with strong roots can withstand almost anything, even the most crazy storms. The tree, in Daniel's saying, the tree represents a person, family, or dojo, and the storm obviously represents the turmoil happening. That metaphor works. Like the shamrock, it's very unique. A major storm will destroy anything, but a strong tree can withstand it. That makes the tree special. What's special or unique about two branches on a tree? Nothing. You could say 2 arms, 1 person, and the metaphor would be exactly the same. Hell, it may even make more sense as the arms can function independently of each other. Or how about saying 2 people, 1 marriage? That's a bit more romantic, but it works, right? 2 people who are independent of each other form 1 union, 1 marriage. 2 sails, 1 boat. Very deep there. 2 butt cheeks, 1 ass. That makes the most sense. There are 2 essential parts to 1 whole. Also, who cares? So Shinpo Sensei learned from some great ancestor or Mr. Han or whatever bullshit they're going with, and they certainly never asked Robert Mark Kamen about any of this. How exactly does this affect Lee? Who cares? Doesn't matter. This would imply Mr. Han taught him everything he needs to fight, but the trailer seems to indicate he needs both styles, which are essentially mirrors of each other, as a huge climactic moment. Now, I will offer one caveat to all the negativity about the 2 branches, 1 tree nonsense. In Cobra Kai, the show specifically mentions the offensive Miyagi-Do came from Miyagi ancestors having to battle off invasions of Okinawa. Technically, that is a side of Miyagi-Do that would not trace back to the origins with Mr. Han's Kung Fu. If Daniel teaches this young kid to kill, then he busts out this shit at the fight, I would forgive most of it. But then you and I know that isn't happening. Now, will this movie connect with Cobra Kai? The answer is no, not really. Daniel shows up, but that's it. I already pointed out they changed the house back to its original color. The rooms here are completely different. Like, instead of the minimalism, Daniel got a bunch of new shit and threw it in. Now, there are a few things the director said in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, which raises red flags. He says he first read the script in early 22. He then says when he read that, Cobra Kai was nowhere near as far along as it is now. Well, if you didn't know or forgot, Cobra Kai finished production of Season 5 in December of 2021. That means that when Entwistle, the director, read that script, the show had 5 of its 6 seasons already completed. However, in the interview, he talks as if it was still in seasons 1 or 2, and it was this new thing. Obviously, that is a straight, easily verifiable lie. He's trying to convince you, Cobra Kai fans, to see his movie as if they were formed together. Obviously, they were not. Later in the interview, the reporter says he was in contact with Cobra Kai creators throughout the production. Now, is that true? The reporter said it, not him. He does say he had conversations with the Cobra Kai team, not creators. But let's look at what the creators themselves said. Back in July, Collider asked them about the movie. Did the movie influence Season 6? This is what Josh Heald replied. It did not. That was an arm's length project for Sony. That's parallel development with the Sony feature team. We were shown an early copy of that script and did give some thoughts and notes as take it or leave it kind of helpfulness to that filmmaker and to the feature team. So you can see from them that they had very minimal involvement. They read an early script and that was it. You'll note the director, Entwistle, did not correct the reporter when she said he was in constant contact with the creators throughout production. That was wrong. Completely false, but he allowed the falsehood to stand as it benefited the illusion that the 2 stories were created together. It's a weasel thing to do. You claim you aren't lying while allowing others to state clear falsehoods and not correcting them. So I don't trust the director. The trailer loads up nostalgia and tries to justify bridging 2 unrelated universes, and it provides nothing of story. The film is the brainchild of people who wanted to create a Spider-Man extended universe. Clearly, they wanted to use existing properties to make more money. This movie is trying hard to ride the coattails of Cobra Kai. I can't see the future, and I can't tell you how the movie will do at the box office. Best case scenario is it does pretty modest and makes enough to justify its existence. Worst case is it taints the Karate Kid brand so bad Mr. Miyagi's spinoff hurts because of it. We'll have to wait and see. And by the way, do you despise this trilogy and everything it stands for? I have just the thing for you. Exclusive in the merch store below, you can get shirts and more that say, "I heart Daniel's trilogy." Let them know where you stand. Have a great day. I'll see you at the next watch party.